I guess even as a child, I like to explore. I like to figure out how you could have two switches that would turn on a light. Just little things like that, and understanding. And computer science has these little, well, the problems are a little bit bigger than that, but the problem solving and intellectual ideas. I mean, some people live in a world of ideas, others live in a world of relationships, you know, different things. I happen to be someone who lives in the world of ideas, and that's what excites me about computer science.
Oh, that's easy. My wife. Because what I do, I work on international security and improving relations internationally and interpersonally. And what I love most is my wife. And it's part of what it is what she's given to me. I mean, I'm so much better person than I was before we did this process. And so that's what I'm grateful to her for.
The thing I love the most about what I do is, as a professor, being an educated mentor and enabling the careers of others is the thing I'm most passionate about. I mean, that's why I do what I do foremost. The other thing I like about what I do is I really know that I can be at the forefront of where technology and innovation is going, and being able to drive a lot of that is very exciting.
Mathematics is so beautiful, and the ability to apply that mathematics in this useful way, that inspires me. Just a couple of days ago, I think it was yesterday, I gave a talk to a bunch of high school students, and the talk was a math talk in some sense, but I was trying to give them this sense of beauty, you know, showing them a theorem and a proof, and just to inspire them. And they seemed to be getting it. And that was just a heartwarming experience. And I would just like to think that I would be able to transfer, to inspire that same sense of beauty in mathematics and in its use to a much wider.
Well, it's a challenge that's always been there. When you try to change society, society has a lot of inertia. But we just have to, we can't get frustrated by that. We just have to keep trying.
Yeah, some of the biggest challenges that we face is that everything a lot of things that we do in technology or in computing is a double-edged sword. You know, we do a lot of work for AI for good and building technology to solve big problems, but at the same time, the solution to those problems can be used for unintended reasons or for other use cases that might not be designed for what they're used for. And so being able to understand the broad impact of the technology you're building, even though your intentions are for good, it's really difficult to have that balanced view.
I haven't run into, more recently, when you're earlier in your career, and I was much earlier, I wanted to develop my professional reputation, okay? But later in life, what I wanted to do is something which would have a significant impact on millions of people. And that's why I've become more involved in improving education in China or working on early childhood, because those things could, have a real impact. And I think this is true of most people. And, I've had a good job that I've earned enough money that money is no longer an issue. I can do whatever I want to do. I have sufficient. So, in fact, in China, when they asked me what my consulting fee was, I said it was zero. That if the job would have an impact to affect the lives of millions, I'll do it for nothing, just cover my expenses. If it doesn't, I won't take it no matter what you offer me. So I think when someone gets beyond 65 or 70, their goals in life change, and they don't have things which are big problems.
Well, there are two answers. One would be in cryptography, the other would be in international security. In cryptography, it's easy. Taking information security seriously. So like Paul Kocher, who came up with the Spectre attack on microprocessors and speculative execution, is a good friend of mine. And he says he goes to microprocessor conferences now, and they still talk about optimization almost entirely in terms of speed, none in terms of security. So that's the big thing in information security would be for it to be taken seriously and designed in from the beginning.
Well, it would excite me a lot if we really could develop computer programs which, let's say, extracted the function of an object. That would be an incredible thing. The impact of that on the world would be astronomical.
Can you give an example of such an impact?
Because then we could create systems that you could talk to and you wouldn't know whether it was a human or not. I mean, it would be such a major change that it would, I mean, the impact you see on deep learning now, where all we do is pattern recognition. And all of a sudden, I've gone to vending machines in China, and they don't accept money. They don't want people to have to unload the money. So you use your cell phone to communicate. I noticed that when I catch a flight in Detroit for Beijing, they're starting to do away with boarding passes. They have a camera, and the camera recognizes you and brings up your digital boarding pass as they go on. Things are just changing.
I think what excites me about the future are actually the tools and I guess what excites me about the future are the tools and where we are in computing. The young researchers have this incredible dearth of opportunity of these tools that have been built and where technology is now, that they can have this opportunity to leverage that to actually have a way to make big change.
Well, I mean, the obvious exciting thing that's going on is machine learning. And the real unsolved problem is, why does it work and how is it really working? And in particular, it's going to be used for things like driving cars, and getting it to work correctly is, very hard, especially where there's no real definition of correctness. I'm afraid that what in practice is going to happen is that as soon as it becomes better than the average driver, it will be deployed. But I would like some theory there, some way to be able to prove or really validate that it's not going to think a child is a rock on the road or something and kill people.
Advice for younger researchers. Do not let logic become such a major part of your life that you become illogical. And I did this. I misapplied logic. I once told my wife she could not feel a certain way because it didn't make any sense, which is ridiculous. How she feels is how she feels. There's a section in our book on illogical logic that starts with me, but then it goes to nuclear weapons. Our logic of nuclear weapons is totally illogical.
The word of advice that I would have is you would follow your heart. There's a lot of directions that people could tell you to go, but really at the end of the day, you follow what you're passionate about, Passion is what drives innovation, and that's what's going to keep you motivated and excited. You don't necessarily need to follow what somebody else does. You follow where you are most excited about.
Where I teach, and I advise a lot of students, is do what you enjoy. You get one life to live, and you want it to be fun. And whatever you do is don't take a job based on salary, because your job is going to be a big piece of your life. And no matter what your job you take, you'll have enough money that you can live. But you don't want to be going to work every day. You want to be going to have fun and enjoy what you're doing. And furthermore, you'll probably do much better. Because in my case, since whenever there was a decision as to which way to go, I said, which would be more fun? And so I may have been in a job and there may have been another person. I was there because it was what I was excited about. And that person may have been much better than me, but was there because it was work. And so he maybe thought about it 3-4 hours a day, 5 days a week. I thought about it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I outperformed him, not because I was better, but because it was what I really wanted to do. So what I really tell students is figure out what you enjoy. If you enjoy working with people, then think of a career where you're going to engage people. If you like just dealing with ideas, then maybe a research career. If you like building things, then that's another type of career. And you can't figure out, exactly what you want, but you can have a general feeling. And so many random things are going to happen in your life where you're going to make an adjustment.
Well, it's largely because I'm not a teacher, I'm not in academia, I've been working in industry. All I can really advice I might be able to give them is based on my own career, and that advice would be worthless because so much has changed in the last 40 or 50 years that what worked for me is not going to work for them.
Yeah, I mean, I think every scientist can contribute to major societal problems, either climate change or health. And I think the way to really approach this is to think about the use of what you're doing in those sectors, and everybody can contribute because healthcare and sustainability are such difficult, complex, broad areas that everybody can contribute there. And I think really having an open discussion and a narrative around the impact that you can have in those sectors is going to be really important. And that's also going to inspire future students to work in this space as well.
Tell your elected representatives that this is important to you. And I'd add one other thing, to not treat climate change as the greatest problem facing civilization, which was said at the opening ceremony. Nuclear weapons are the only thing that could kill us as we're talking now. And the risk of doing that, as I just explained in this press conference, is about 1% a year, worse than 50-50 odds over the lifetime of a child born today. We need to recognize that it's not just the problem du jour, so to speak, which is climate change, and that all of this is part of a larger problem, which is that we are not behaving responsibly given the huge power that technology has given us with changing the climate, destroying civilization with nuclear weapons, creating new life forms, genetic engineering. So the fundamental problem is to become more mature. Right now, we don't worry about the future. We're like a 16-year-old kid with a new driver's license who gets a 500 horsepower Ferrari. That's what technology's given us. And we're driving the thing like crazy. We need to grow up really fast or we're going to kill ourselves.
There are things changing, and I believe that we are one world, that the notion of a country may not be in the future the right notion. If a country, let's say we'll pick just Germany. Let's say they had wanted to build the Airbus without others. It's such a complex project and requires interaction with so many companies and so forth. It couldn't have been done. And projects today are so big, they're bigger than countries. I think we've got to learn that every individual is important. It doesn't matter what their nationality is, the color of their skin, their gender, their sexual orientation. All of these things are kind of irrelevant. We've got to start focusing that everybody is important, because that brings up something that the U.S. needs to do, and that's to create a foreign policy. Right now, the U.S. is economically the most powerful country in the world, and militarily. But we're only 5% of the world's population. And if our policy is, we're going to try to keep the 95% of the people in poverty so that we can have a better life, that's likely to lead to a war or other things. We'd be much better off helping those other countries raise their standard of living and build a relationship with them. So I think trying to realize that every individual is important, and that's one of the things, the two things I'm involved in, that's part of it. In China, talent is uniformly distributed over the world, but opportunity is not. And I would like to put the opportunity in China up so that people would have it. And the same with early childhood. If you're born in Chicago, in a district where there's high crime and it's a single mother on drugs trying to earn money and raise the child, I don't think that child has the same opportunity as if it's in a middle class family in a stable environment. So I would like us to build a level playing field for every child that's born.